Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Record Club. It's me, Shawn. We're back in the studio from last week when we were in San Francisco. This episode's a little late. I got super sick over Thanksgiving. I don't know what it was. It was like chills, and it wasn't COVID, but it was fucking terrible. So it was 5 days of chills and fevers and coughing, and it's no fun. So anyway, sorry this is late. My voice is also a little gone from the coughing, but I'm still here. I made it through, and we're going to talk a little bit today about the band Pavement and their album Crooked Rain, which is the 434th best album according to Rolling Stone magazine. So this is a band I've heard the name of 10 billion times. You go into a record store and you go through the records. There's always a Pavement section. I always breeze right past that. I wasn't very familiar with Pavement at all. And listening to this album, which came out in 1994, I believe. Let's find out. Let's get my notes in order before you get real far into it. Yep, on Valentine's Day in 1994, this came out. This album, I'm listening to it now for the first time in 2023. I hadn't heard any of the songs on this except for one, which is, I think their biggest hit ever, is "Cut Your Hair," which I was listening to the album and that song came on. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, I love this song. So I had no idea that was Pavement. That song rules. I've heard that in movies and in commercials, I think. I think that song has kind of been everywhere. But I didn't really understand, what Pavement was going to be when I started this. I just knew that it was like an indie rock thing, I thought. And listening to it now, I was under the impression that had I found this earlier in my life, if I had heard this, I would say in like high school time, like 98 I started high school in like the very end of 98 and then I ended in 2002. In that window, I think I would have this could have been my identity. I think we are right on the cusp of this. So Pavement, the band itself, formed in 1989 in Stockton, California. They've gone through a couple members. And they've also broken up and reunited and broken up and reunited. I think they're currently reunited in this state, and they started touring, I think, in 2022, and I think they're still on tour. So I think they're still going. Maybe not all the original members. Actually, I know not all the original members, but I think for the most part, we're still good. I hate drinking on camera, but this fucking voice of mine right now is not ideal. So again, forgive me. So they are kind of known for being like a super influential indie band. And you know what? I listened to this album now, and it shocked me. It came out in 94. This sounds like a 2001 album or 2003, early 2000s for sure to me. Like, I hear so many of the bands that I ended up loving over the course of my life, and they were clearly influenced by Pavement. Like, there's definitely some heavy Modest Mouse here. There's a lot of other bands. I think even Weezer sounds a lot like Pavement. And, the Blue album came out in 94, same year as this, but Pavement had been around before that. I feel like there is some... Rivers must have heard this. He had to have. So let's talk a little bit about the band a little bit, and then we'll go into the album. So the group mainly consisted of Stephen, I think it's Malkmus, 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 vocals, guitar, and most of the songwriting. Scott Canberg, guitar and vocals, and Mark Eibold, bass, and Steve West, drums, and Bob, this one is the tough one, Nataskovich, percussions and vocals. It was initially conceived as a recording project as the band wanted to avoid press or live performances and just be a recording thing. And I find that this band was very into the idea of being indie, and they really stuck to that. They never really sold out all the. I mean, they had a couple the song, as I mentioned before, "New Haircut" was their like biggest song, but like they didn't really like. I don't know. They didn't ever sign to a major label, and they could have. They kind of just always stuck with the indie thing, and they wanted to kind of be an indie band forever. And now they're kind of like a cult band. It looks like. I feel like if you know Pavement and grew up with Pavement, this is one of your all-time favorite bands. Everything of all the research I've done, I've listened to read some articles, I've listened to some podcasts about it, and yeah, people who have grown up with this shit are like this. This is their jam forever once you find it at a young age. What was I going to say about this band itself? Okay, so they had a lot of lo-fi releases, and you can tell, it's so lo-fi. The singer is, he's not really trying, and that is such a. I think it's charming. I like that, but I could see some people the mainstream is what the fuck is this? You're not even trying to hit the notes at all. Why even sing? But I think that's kind of fun. So this is their second album. What was I going to say? Oh, okay. So they recorded their first album at an EP, I'm sorry, called Sleigh Tracks, 1933 to 1969, Demolition Plot J through 7, and Perfect Sound Forever, recorded at the Louder Than You Think home studio of Stockton local and former hippie Gary Young, who also played drums on the recordings. Upon hearing the duo's first couple songs, Young was quoted saying, "This Malcolmus idiot is quite a songwriting genius." So he kind of joined the band. He helped record a couple of it was just a couple people helped record, and then kind of joined the band. But the first album came out when did that first album come out? I think it was 1992. And so then when Crooked Rain came out, they went on tour, or during the recording. So before they started recording Crooked Rain, they were writing it. And then they went on tour, the Slanted and Enchanted tour. And Gary Young, the hippie who helped record this, the drummer, became pretty eccentric and would hand out cabbage and mashed potatoes to the audience, and started doing handstands, and he just got fucking crazy. Then they realized he had a crazy drinking problem, and then they kind of asked him to leave the band. And then they found a new drummer, and then they recorded this album. So that guy kind of missed out on their biggest, most critically acclaimed album. They've had a lot of the Pavement heads I was looking into who like this band. They don't really feel like they have a bad album. They kind of like all of their shit. If you like this one, I think you're gonna like all of them. They had another album called Wowie Zowie and Brighten the Corners, and everyone seems to think these are all I haven't listened to these, but I think I will. I think that this album, although it's not the best album I've ever heard, I really liked it, and I think I'm interested to see what else Pavement is up to. I'm curious at this point. You got my attention, Pavement. You got me. So let's talk about the album itself, Crooked Rain, Crooked Rain. It stands as a touchstone for underground rock in the 1990s, and one of the greatest albums of the decade, which is that was a quote from Enchanted what magazine said this? Village Voice said that. Now, the 90s had in my opinion, one of the best albums of the 90s is quite the statement. Entertainment Weekly's David Brown said this album, he gave it a B plus, saying that Crooked Rain is just a bunch of guys dwelling on topics like skateboarding, plane crashes, girls, and mocking the Stone Temple Pilots and Smashing Pumpkins, which they do, which is a fun anecdote. I guess there's a they're just talking some shit, but they're just I think it didn't seem like in the songs it didn't seem like very mean, but they're talking shit. And then I guess Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins took offense to being named in one of their songs. And when they were headlining Lollapalooza, Billy Corgan said Smashing Pumpkins would not play if Pavement was on the bill, which they were originally, but then I think they got booted because of Billy Corgan. So they don't have Pavement and Smashing Pumpkins. I don't know if they made up, but there was a feud for a little bit because Billy Corgan didn't like being mentioned in the Pavement song, which I guess I kind of see both sides of it, but I think Billy Corgan is also kind of a diva, so take that for what it will. I think he's trying to change his image now, but they're especially in like the late '90s when the Smash Pumpkins was on top of the world. I think whatever, I wouldn't piss him off because he's crazy. Some people compared this to it kind of sound like the Meat Puppets, and then actually they did get some shit. I guess there's a band from the UK called The Fall. I think it's called The Fall. The Fall? And they were saying this band is a fucking ripoff of what? The Fall hated Pavement. This band rips us off. Fuck this band. There was a time I was helping my friend with his band, Atlas of Id, which ended up becoming later a band called Children of Nova. And he was my roommate, and so I would go to every practice, and then there would be vocal effects, so I'd be on the little mixers, doing that was my job. I'm gonna go on a tangent here, so forgive me. But when I was in helping with the band Atlas of Ed, way back when, I'm not musically talented. I can't do shit, so I would just do this, and I was kind of just fucking around having fun. But the band was so fucking nice to me. There's a drummer in this band named Shawn, who I don't know what the guy went on to do. He was a fantastic drummer, but he was so adamant that I was part of the band, which I was always like, oh, I'm not. I'm just helping. But he was so no. We're doing band photos. You have to be in it. You're a part of the band. He was the sweetest guy. I mean, they were all very sweet. I loved all of them. So I would help with this band. And then as time went on, Mega64 kept, it was at the same time as Mega64 starting and this starting. And, I had more of a role in Mega64. So I started doing that a little bit more. And then Matt and I, just because of, I forget why, we moved out of apartments together. It wasn't like it was any ill will or anything. Anyways, the whole point of this is that I stopped really helping. Once Atlas of Id broke up and became Children of Nova, I was no longer really doing they didn't need me anymore, which is fine. I had never been in a band. I never thought I'd be in a band. So the fact that I was able to have that lifestyle and go to band practice and then be in the band photo, which again was very nice. I had no talent, was super fun. Being there for the whole recording process and the demo and it was a really cool, I would say I helped them for a year. It was a cool year that I was doing that shit. And so I was still, heavily invested when Children of Nova came out. I just was rooting for everyone. I wanted them to make it. And they loved the Mars Volta, fucking loved them. And the Mars Volta, eventually, Children of Nova, I think, got big enough that they had gotten some feedback on they'd heard enough or whatever. And I just remember that the Mars Volta wasn't stoked about Children of Nova. And I don't know exactly what was said. I just know that they were. I remember them. I think Cedric from the Mars Volta said that Children of Nova was a bunch of ripoffs or something. It wasn't nice. Whatever it was wasn't nice. And I remember being devastated for my friends. That probably fucking killed them. That really sucks. And so I don't know if this is the same case. That was such a long tangent of a story, but with this Pavement and the Fall, like I don't think I think that I tried to do more investigating on it just because I was curious because I felt that loose connection with what happened with my friends, but I don't know if Pavement intentionally sounded like the Fall originally, or if the Fall just like was sick of hearing about it, which it could have happened with the Mars Volta. Maybe they were just sick of hearing about this band they didn't know anything about, and they just wanted to like dismiss it. I don't know. I have no idea what happened, but I just know that like if that is the case, like that sucks. I don't want anyone's feelings to get hurt. I don't like that. That was such a weird tangent. I'm still in medicine, guys. Forgive me. Anyways, I don't know if I should have even told that story, but here we are. We got into it. And this is what this is for the Patreon, right? You guys won't tell anyone. Okay. Anyways, so so maybe the Fall was right to say that Pavement sounded like them. I never listened to the Fall. I honestly don't give a fuck about the Fall. So Pavement, you win this round as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So in 2003, the album was ranked as the number 210 on the top 500 albums, and then it was moved to 212 in 2012, and then in this newest one, it got fucking demoted to 434. So that's tough. And then, as I said before, it was ranked at number 10 on their list of the 10 best albums of the 90s. So this made it on 10 best albums of the 90s. This made it on. That's wild. There are some fucking bangers in the 90s, so that's pretty crazy. Let's go through the tracks real quick. We've already gone on some tangents. Let's go through the tracks. Okay, the first song, Silence Kid. Now, this song, I first put it on. It sounds so much like Buddy Holly Every Day that I feel like it has to be intentional. Like I looked into that too. Like, is this is exactly that same song singing pattern, right? Like it is. So is it intentional? I don't know. There's a fun fact about this song though. When they printed the album, there was on the original artwork there was a splotch, a fuck up in the printing, and so people thought that the song was called Silence Kit with a T, but really it's Silence Kid with a D, and there was a lot of debate going back and forth of whether that splotch was intentional. It was apparently not intentional, and they did a reissue of this later, and they changed it to Silence Kid, and then people were mad that they changed it, but that is what I think it was always intended to be. So now you look at looking at the track listing, it's like Silence Kid, and then like in parentheses there's an asterisk, and I think that's because they're trying to due to an ink spot on the back of the original artwork, the song Silence Kid has become erroneously known as Silence Kit. So there is an asterisk in some, this, I'm looking at this, like I printed this up, but I think this asterisk is like people put that there because they're not sure what it's supposed to be, but it is supposed to be Silence Kid. Anyways, whatever. Okay. I like that song. I think my opinion on this album is the first half of it, I think, is all great. And they kind of lose me a little bit the back half. But the first half is great. Elevate Me Later reminds me of 2000s rock. It is like so clear that this inspired so many bands in the era of music that I grew up in and started going to like all like those shows. A lot of times back in this the early 2000s, I didn't have a girlfriend or shit to do really. So if I wasn't doing Mega64 or if I didn't have like work that night, I would just a lot of times go to like the local music venues and just buy a ticket to. I didn't even know what concerts I was going to. I would just buy a ticket, like I'm gonna go, and then like I would just see like the opening bands and like I would learn about a lot of new bands that way. And this sounds so much like a band I would have seen back then. So although they inspired those bands clearly. Same with the song Stop Breathing, like all these songs, it just sounds, that to me sounds a little bit more of a Weezer song. There's a couple songs that like, it sounds like Weezer, and I think that is, again, not an accident. The famous one, Cut Your Hair, love that. Now, that, I was like, I know this from a movie. What fucking movie is it? It's from, a Very Brady sequel, which is that a popular movie? I loved those kids. I have refrained from picking those movies for movie club because I feel like Rocco would hate me for picking those, but man, I loved those movies. And I watch them now and they're still pretty funny. There's a part in the sequel where Carol Brady's getting her hair done by David Spade, and this song is playing while he does it. So I just know this song very much from the Very Brady sequel and other ways, but I just thought, man, I love that. I love that movie. It's still funny. It's it's not the best movie, and I can't pick it because I feel like people will be annoyed with me for picking that movie. But am I crazy for liking those movies? Both those movies I think are good. Am I nuts? Let me know in the comments. It's fine. I can handle it. I got some shit for liking Dave. People did not like Dave. I guess I'm alone, but I like that movie. That's a tangent. Let's move on. Newark Wilder. This sounds like Pinkerton to me again. The song Unfair. I like this one. It paints a very clear picture to me about like driving through the Grapevine to get to LA. It's just a very Southern California song. It puts you there. I like that a lot. Because I've done that. I've drove through the Grapevine to get to LA so many fucking times. The Grapevine is like, you get out of Bakersfield, you're in like shit hell. Then you go to the Grapevine, and it's like this crazy mountain pass. And then right when you go through it, you go down the Grapevine, and then you see Magic Mountain, and oh, I'm in LA now. At least close to LA. I'm getting home if you're doing a long drive. Okay, so Gold sounds like a Bright Eyes song to me. Back in the day, I loved Bright Eyes. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but I feel like Conrad Oberst was also inspired by Pavement. I wouldn't be surprised. Then the song 4 minus 5 equals Unity. I like that there's jazz in this. It's like a jazz break, an interlude almost, and I really enjoyed that. So I really like this song. Now, after this is when they start losing me a little bit. So Range Life, I didn't really care. It's kind of slower, and I was like losing interest a little bit. Heaven is a Truck. That one's okay. But I think at this point, like I even like hitting the plane down, it's like, okay, you just keep repeating yourself. I'm just like over it. And then the last song, Fillmore Jive, it's like, okay, I'm really done. So like once we get past the jazz interlude, I'm kind of over it. And that's just me. I still really like this album, and I really am thankful that I got it. I'm listening to it. I think that I think it's a fun time. Like I really like. I'm gonna investigate this band a lot more. I'm glad that I finally listened to Pavement. I've heard about them for so long. I think it's good. It's good to listen to the things you hear about so much and see so much. So I'm glad that I got there. So glad I got here. Glad it's on the list. Should be on the list. I think it inspired a whole generation of music that I ended up like associating with. And that was my identity for so long when I was younger. That like alternative rock shit. I say shit in a positive way, but that was my shit. So, anyways, let's talk about Sheena is a Punk Rocker by the Ramones, because that is the song that was on the 434 of the Greatest 500 list. The Ramones, I don't feel like you think of like, I want to be sedated, and that's not fucking fair. That's one song. Like the fact that I judge Ramones so harshly on that, like, cause this song I think is great. I've always liked this song, and I never even think about it when you think, oh, what's the Ramones? I go, oh, fuck, I want to be sedated again. It's not, this is a great song. So written by Joey Ramone in 1977. The Sheena, now here's the thing. Sheena is referred to in the title as, in fact, a comic book character from Sheena, the Queen of the Jungle, and the idea being that Joey Ramone thought that punk rock would appeal to a savage jungle girl brought to civilization. So if a girl really did grow up in the jungle and she was brought to New York, she would like Sheena as a punk rocker. It's one of the is notable because it's one of the first songs on record to be to explicitly refer to this punk rock in its title and lyric terms of subculture. So it's kind of like calling out punk rock, and that really wasn't a thing before. It was kind of like an unknown thing, but never like really labeled in a title of a song and a song being about it. Revolutionary in that sense. And now, how many songs have the word punk rock in it? 1 billion? 10 billion? This is one of the first. Anyways, so this is on their third album, and they kind of had a more like a surf punk rock teenage rebellion song is kind of the vibe from this song. So I love this song, and I never really gave it a fair shake until this week. So Ramones, forgive me. I think I'm sure the Ramones are in here, I'm going to give them a fair shot because I have this whole thought of the Ramones in my head, and I don't think that's fair. So I'm going to go into it with a blank slate. So Ramones, you are forgiven for I Want to Be Sedated. Not your fault that one song I don't like. So let's move on past that. I'm going to give this, Sheena's a punk rocker. I'm going to give it 4 pieces of vinyl. What am I going to give Crooked Rain? I'm going to give it, I'm going to give it 4 pieces of vinyl. But I did Beyonce, and that was 4. But this is a higher 4 than that 4. Maybe it's like a 4.25 or I don't know. But I did really like this album. But again, it loses me at the end a little bit. So let's see what Rolling Stone says about it. Oh my goodness. I am sorry about my voice again, people. It has been, this sickness sucked. You know how much I hate being late on these record clubs, and the fact that I'm late, this is killing me, so forgive me. Okay. After the indie rock Slacker Kings' dazzling debut, Slanted and Enchanted, nobody knew what Pavement would try next for an encore, but Crooked Rain tried to be their sunniest, most tuneful music, a concept album about turning 28, full of pastoral beauty and wise-ass melody, with echoes of Creedence and Hendrix, maybe The Dead. Stephen Malkmus briefly vocalizes a bittersweet guitar ripples in Golden Sound, Silence Kid, and Arranged Life capture the moment of feeling stranded halfway to adulthood, so drunk in the August sun. Okay, well, maybe it's because I'm on medicine, but that didn't make a lot of sense to me. But also, maybe I read it too fast. But we're going to move past it. I don't know. I don't fucking know. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you guys being here, sticking with me even though I'm sick. Let's listen to a new record. And what's it going to be? Let's find out. I try to get Johnny on this week. He's my white whale. I don't think he's ever going to be on the show. I think he's too nervous. I don't think Johnny wants to do it. So I'm going to stop asking Johnny. I've been bullying him. So everyone leave Johnny alone. I just keep asking him to be on it. And I just, you know what? It's not his thing. Johnny, you don't have to do this. You're off the hook, Johnny. Let's find out what we're doing. 377. What could it be? What could it be? Let's find out. Let's find out what 377 is. Oh, fuck yeah. We got Fever to Tell by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Speaking of early 2000s and music I liked back then, this falls right into play with that. I've heard this album. You know what, though? I've listened to the entire album on its whole. I've obviously listened to, like, Maps, Y Control. But let's find out if I've heard the whole album or not. I don't know. But I'm excited. An album that I listened to a whole, at least the songs from so many fucking times back then. So let's find out if I've heard the whole album or not. And we're going to, the 377 song is The Cure, Pictures of You. Another song I've heard a whole lot. So I'm excited. Actually, I'm very excited. So let's listen to the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Fever to Tell. And we will listen to The Cure. That doesn't sound like a hard week for me. That sounds pretty easy. This is no Miranda Lambert. This is an easy week. Fuck yeah. I earned it after this week being sick. Fuck that. Thank you for watching, everyone. And I'll see you next week, hopefully on time. Goodbye.